It wasn't long before the auction day arrived, and Citri and CHRY were en route to the auction house with 950 million in their possession. Citri mentioned she could have secured additional funds, but CHRY insisted it was sufficient, and he didn't want her to shoulder any more of the financial strain. He attempted to lean on her for support, but Liz intervened, tugging Cry towards herself and declaring that if they didn't acquire the mask legitimately, she would simply pilfer it from the winning bidder. The sisters engaged in a playful tug-of-war over Cry, who internally lamented the disproportionate amount of trouble this mask was causing. He resolved that if he couldn't obtain it through the auction, he would concede defeat gracefully. They soon arrived at the futuristic auction building, greeted by a substantial throng. Liz questioned whether these seemingly impecunious individuals were also participating in the auction, but Cry clarified that the majority were merely spectators. Just then, Tino and her entourage appeared, driven by curiosity about the auction. Rumors of Cry's debt and his pursuit of a remarkable artifact had already circulated, garnering him unwanted attention. He devised a plan, requesting Tino to bid in his stead, promising to provide subtle cues. Tino eagerly accepted the opportunity, while Liz warned her that failure would leave her homeless. Tino expressed her unwavering determination to win, though Cry privately dismissed it as naive optimism, knowing he controlled the bidding. Moments later, the haughty Eclair arrived in her opulent carriage, disdainfully turning her head upon seeing Cry. The auction commenced, and as items were progressively sold, Cry waited patiently for the mask's appearance. Scheduled as the final item due to the hype it generated, Cry silently cursed the organizers, unable to bid on anything else while preserving his funds. Tina glanced at him expectantly with each new item presented, growing increasingly anxious as Cry consistently declined. This hesitancy caused Cry to waver, his inherent fascination with relics, regardless of their practicality, surfacing. He wrestled with the urge to signal Tino as each item took the stage. Then, he pictured Citri's reaction to him bidding on anything but the mask. Visualizing her gentle smile, Cry realized this devoted Omega would undoubtedly pardon any transgression. A surge of confidence propelled him to his feet, determined to bid on every subsequent item. At this juncture, the auctioneer unveiled the next piece, the Akashic Golem, crafted by Citri during her tenure at the Akashic Tower. While Cry was initially perplexed, a glance at Citri's equally bewildered expression reminded him that it was one of the two items she had requested he retrieve from the government. As bids escalated, Cry turned to Citri, inquiring if she desired the golem. Her longing for the creation she had poured so much time and resources into was evident, but she insisted it wasn't their primary objective. She described the golem as a memento of her colleagues, something she could live without. Cry, however, was unmoved. He declared his intent to purchase it for her, promptly signaling Tino to enter the bidding war. The golem's price quickly surpassed 400 million, prompting Citri to question Cry's decision to expend their funds on it rather than the mask. He feigned nonchalance, inwardly justifying his actions by reminding himself the money was Citri's to begin with. The price continued to climb, culminating in Cry instructing Tino to offer their entire 950 million. When another bidder offered 1 billion, Citri felt a pang of despair. Unbeknownst to her, Cry had a contingency plan, continuing to bid until he ultimately secured the golem for a staggering 6 billion. Citri and Liz were astonished, the final price significantly exceeding their budget. Cry then produced a check and handed it to Citri to cover the bid. Citri, overjoyed, promised to repay him promptly, though Cry suggested she return the funds to his sister, Lucia, from whose savings he had borrowed the sum. The auctioneer announced the winning bidder, not Tino, but surprisingly, Scarface, who appeared equally bewildered by the outcome. Later, Tino apologized to Cry, admitting her unfamiliarity with auction procedures and explaining how Scarface had intervened. Cry dismissed it as inconsequential, opting to depart and rest, informing Tino and her friends that the golem had been his sole target all along. He didn't even wait for the mask's presentation, but upon exiting, he remembered Eclair's intention to gift it to Ark, sparking an idea for acquiring the mask after all. Cry promptly proceeded to Ark's office, warning him of the inherent danger of Eclair's relic and urging him to intervene immediately. While Ark's companions protested his authoritative tone, Ark heeded Cry's words, inquiring if he required a weapon. Cry advised against it, adding that any delay in reaching Eclair would be regrettable. Ark understood the implied urgency and departed swiftly, leaving Cry pleased with his manipulation. He anticipated acquiring the mask from Ark at a favorable price once it was retrieved from Eclair. Meanwhile, Eclair sat despondently in her room, reeling from her father's dismissal of her efforts. He had attributed the mask's acquisition to Cry's manipulation, accusing Eclair of being swindled into purchasing a worthless trinket. Alone with the mask, Eclair wept, lamenting her foolishness and recognizing her inability to present it to Arc. Suddenly, a voice emanated from the mask, offering her power. It levitated, promising to enhance her life. Instantly recognizing the veracity of Cry's warning, Eclair drew her sword, but the mask's tendrils swiftly ensnared her. Concurrently, Arc met with Eclair's father, who recounted his daughter's dejection after his harsh criticism. He mentioned she had confined herself to her room, hoping Arc could console her. Suddenly, explosions reverberated through the building, prompting Arc's group to react swiftly. They discovered an unconscious guard in the hallway, followed by the appearance of Eclair, dragging another guard. Now under the mask's control, she vowed vengeance against those who had belittled her, gruesomely consuming the guard against the wall. Despite the horrifying display, Arc calmly approached, kneeling before her and inquiring about the situation. She explained she had won the mask to empower him, prompting him to request it. Eclair nearly complied, but the sight of his sword triggered a furious outburst. Arc recalled Cry's advice to go unarmed, realizing his error had exacerbated the situation. Left with no alternative, he instructed his companions to remove the mask without harming Eclair. Lark and his group returned to their clan headquarters after resolving the mask incident, where Cry immediately bowed in apology for the inconvenience he had caused. He assumed their disheveled appearance resulted from Eclair's potential outburst, while Arc marveled at Cry's accurate predictions. Arc handed over the mask, and Eclair emerged, apologizing for her aggression. The mask abruptly began speaking, diverting Cry's attention. He donned it, triggering an analysis of his abilities. To his disappointment, the mask deemed him too weak to activate, even falling short of Eclair's capabilities. The mask deactivated and dropped to the floor. Though not the desired artifact, Cry was intrigued by the talking relic. He inquired if he could keep it, eliciting a disgusted response from Eclair, who wanted nothing more to do with the object. With the situation resolved, Cry invited everyone to partake in the celebratory cake he had prepared. As the festivities commenced, Cry stepped outside, reflecting on Eclair's superior strength. Once again, he contemplated retiring from treasure hunting.